Blood trickled down Zara's face as flight attendants blocked the jetway. Her twin sister Amara clutched their first-class tickets, trembling. "Your tickets are invalid," the agent sneered. Little did they know, one phone call from these 16-year-old girls would ground every plane in America's largest airline. Before we dive into this shocking story of discrimination and justice, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more stories about people fighting back against injustice. Now, let's find out how two brilliant teenage girls brought an entire airline to its knees. The morning had started with such promise. 16-year-old twins Zara and Amara Jackson stood in front of their Atlanta home, matching navy blue blazers and crisp white blouses, making them look older than their years. Their father, Darius Jackson, loaded their carefully packed suitcases into the trunk of his sleek black Tesla. "You girls have everything?" Darius asked, his voice betraying both pride and anxiety. This would be their first time traveling alone. "Yes, Dad," they answered in unison, a habit that had always amused their family. Amara patted her messenger bag. Project notes, presentation slides, backup flash drives. And emergency contacts, IDs, cash, cards, Zara added, tapping her own bag. Darius nodded, satisfied. What he hadn't told his daughters was that he'd made several calls to ensure their journey would be smooth. As the CEO of NextGen Technologies, one of the country's most successful black-owned tech companies and the airline's biggest corporate client, Darius was accustomed to pulling strings when necessary. But he'd decided his girls needed to experience some independence. They were, after all, finalists in the National Youth Science Competition in Boston, selected for their groundbreaking environmental project that could revolutionize water purification in underserved communities. "I'm so proud of you too," Darius said, embracing them both. Their mother would have been too, he thought silently. 3 years since cancer had taken her, and still the pain felt fresh. "We know, Dad," Zara said, squeezing his arm. "We'll make Mom proud too." The drive to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport was filled with last-minute preparation discussions. The twins rehearsed their presentation points, debated scientific questions, and strategized how to address potential challenges from the judges. "Remember," Darius said as he pulled up to the departures curb, "you're flying first class. Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't belong there." The words seemed routine, almost unnecessary. The girls were well-traveled, having accompanied their parents on business trips and vacations around the world. But something in their father's tone made them both look up. "We know our worth," Amara replied firmly. It was their mother's mantra, one they'd adopted after her passing. Darius watched them enter the terminal, two brilliant young black women with the world at their feet. If only their mother could see them now, he thought, pulling away from the curb with a mixture of pride and that familiar ache of missing her perspective on moments like these. Inside the terminal, the twins approached the premium check-in counter, boarding passes already downloaded to their phones but needing to check one bag containing materials for their science project demonstration. "Good morning," Zara greeted the agent, a middle-aged white woman whose name tag read, Deborah. Deborah's eyes flicked up, then down, taking in the girl's appearance before responding with a tight smile. "Traveling alone today?" "Yes, ma'am," Amara answered politely. "We're heading to Boston for a science competition." "I see," Deborah said, her tone shifting slightly. "And who purchased these tickets for you?" "Our father," Zara replied, maintaining her composure despite the implication. A few positions over, another agent was checking in the Henderson family. Mother, father, and twin daughters approximately the same age as Zara and Amara, but white. The Jacksons couldn't help noticing the difference in treatment. The agent chatted warmly with the Henderson girls about their trip, asking what they were looking forward to in Boston, while Deborah continued to scrutinize their documentation with suspicion. "Well, everything seems to be in order," Deborah finally conceded, tagging their checked bag. "Though first class is unusual for minors traveling alone. We've flown first class many times," Amara stated matter-of-factly, accepting their baggage claim ticket. As they walked toward security, Zara whispered, "That was weird, right?" "Just the usual," Amara sighed. "Focus on the competition. If we win, that full scholarship to MIT is ours." At the security checkpoint, they obediently removed their laptops and toiletries, placed their shoes on the conveyor belt, and waited their turn. The Henderson family, now just ahead of them in line, passed through without incident. When it was the Jacksons' turn, a TSA agent raised his hand. "You two have been randomly selected for additional screening," he announced. The twins exchanged glances but complied without complaint. They'd been warned by their parents that this might happen. "It's not random," their mother had once explained gently, "but making a scene won't help." So they stood quietly as female agents patted them down, swabbed their hands for explosive residue, and thoroughly examined the contents of their bags. 20 minutes later, they were finally cleared to proceed to their gate. Despite the delays, they were still an hour early for boarding. "I'm going to grab us some breakfast," Zara said, pointing to a cafe near their gate. "The usual?" Amara nodded, taking a seat near the boarding area and pulling out her tablet to review their presentation one last time. The Henderson girls were sitting nearby, scrolling through their phones, their parents engaged in conversation. One of them, catching Amara's eye, offered a small smile, which Amara returned before focusing on her work. This competition could change everything, she thought, imagining the doors that would open with an MIT scholarship. Their project. A low-cost, solar-powered water filtration system that removed both contaminants and pathogens, had already garnered interest from several environmental organizations. Winning the national competition would provide the funding and connections to implement it in communities across the country, starting with Flint, Michigan. Zara returned with breakfast sandwiches and coffee, and they ate quickly, aware that boarding would begin soon. They disposed of their trash and gathered their carry-on items just as the gate agent announced pre-boarding for passengers needing assistance, followed by first class. "That's us," Zara said, gathering her bag. "Let's go change the world." Neither of them could have predicted how true those words would prove, though not in the way they intended. "First-class passengers may now board," announced the gate agent, a thin white woman with streaked blonde hair and a name tag reading, Pamela Wilson. The twins stood and approached the priority boarding lane, tickets pulled up on their phones. The Henderson family was just ahead of them, also holding first-class tickets. Pamela smiled warmly at the family, scanning their boarding passes efficiently and wishing them a pleasant flight. When Zara and Amara stepped forward, Pamela's demeanor changed instantly. "Boarding passes and ID, please," she said curtly, extending her hand. Amara presented her phone with the digital boarding pass displayed alongside her student ID. Zara did the same. Pamela frowned, examining the passes with exaggerated scrutiny. "These don't look right," she said, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "What do you mean?" Zara asked, confusion evident in her voice. "We checked in online yesterday. These tickets seem suspicious," Pamela insisted, her eyes narrowing. "First class for 2 minors traveling alone. How did you get these tickets?" Amara maintained her composure, though her heart was beginning to race. "Our father purchased them for us. We're traveling to Boston for the National Youth Science Competition." A white man waiting in line behind them leaned forward. "Excuse me, but are those actually your tickets?" "First class is expensive, you know." Zara turned, stunned by the stranger's intrusion. "Yes, sir, they are our tickets." "I'm going to need to see additional identification," Pamela declared, motioning to another airline employee. "Bradley, can you come over here?" Bradley Thompson, a balding man with a supervisor badge, approached with a look of immediate suspicion. "What seems to be the problem here?" "These girls are trying to board first class with what appear to be invalid tickets," Pamela explained, as if the twins weren't standing right there. "They're not invalid," Amara protested, her voice steady despite her rising anxiety. "You just scanned them. They're legitimate tickets purchased by our father. Bradley barely glanced at the boarding passes. Do you have any additional identification? A credit card matching the one used to purchase these tickets, perhaps? We're 16, Zara replied. We don't have credit cards in our father's name, obviously. But we have our student IDs and the email confirmation sent to our accounts. By now, other passengers were watching the confrontation unfold. A few had taken out their phones, recording the interaction. If you can't verify these tickets, I'm afraid you'll have to step aside and let other passengers board, Bradley stated firmly. But you just let the Henderson family board with the exact same type of tickets, Amara pointed out, gesturing toward the jetway where the White family had disappeared. Their situation was different, Pamela snapped. Their parents were with them. That's not true, Zara countered. The parents were with them, but they had their own tickets. The daughters had separate tickets, just like us. More passengers were gathering now, some murmuring among themselves. The confrontation was escalating, and the twins could feel the weight of eyes upon them, some sympathetic, others suspicious. Zara pulled out her phone. I'm calling our father. He can verify the purchase. No phone calls at the gate, Bradley barked. Put that away or I'll call security. A middle-aged black woman stepped forward from the line. Excuse me, but this doesn't seem right. Why are you questioning these young ladies when they have valid boarding passes? Ma'am, this doesn't concern you, Bradley said dismissively. I believe it does, the woman replied, identifying herself as Dr. Jasmine Carter. I'm a physician returning to Boston, and I'm witnessing what appears to be discriminatory treatment. Bradley's face flushed. Security, he called out. We need assistance at gate C22. Zara managed to dial her father's number, but the call went to voicemail. Dad, we're having trouble at the gate. They won't let us board. Please call back as soon as you can. I said no phone calls. Bradley shouted, lunging forward as if to grab Zara's phone. Amara stepped between them. Do not touch my sister or her property, she said, her voice low but firm. We have every right to be here, and we're not moving until you explain exactly why our valid tickets are being questioned. Two security officers approached rapidly, hands on their belts. One was a white man with a crew cut, the other a heavy-set black man who looked uncomfortable with the situation. What's going on here? The white officer demanded. These two are attempting to board with fraudulent tickets and are now causing a disturbance, Bradley explained, pointing accusingly at the twins. That's a lie. Zara exclaimed, her composure finally breaking. Our tickets are legitimate. We're being discriminated against. Let's calm down, the black officer suggested, holding up his hands. Can we verify the tickets through your system? Pamela shook her head. The system shows the tickets were purchased, but given the circumstances. What circumstances? Dr. Carter interrupted. The fact that they're young black women traveling alone in first class. The white officer turned to Dr. Carter. Ma'am, please step back and don't interfere, or you'll be removed as well. Meanwhile, other first-class passengers were being allowed to board, many of them looking uncomfortable as they walked past the confrontation. One of the Henderson girls had returned to the gate area, witnessing what was happening with wide eyes. Last chance, Bradley warned the twins. Step aside now, or you'll be escorted from the terminal. Zara and Amara stood their ground, arms linked. We have valid tickets, Amara stated once more. We're not moving. What happened next would change everything. Remove them, Bradley ordered the security officers, his face contorted with anger. The white officer, whose name tag read Officer Keller, immediately stepped forward, grabbing Zara's arm roughly. You're coming with me, now. Don't touch me. Zara cried out, instinctively pulling away. That's when things spiraled out of control. Officer Keller yanked Zara forward with excessive force, causing her to lose her balance. As she stumbled, he shoved her toward the counter. Zara's forehead struck the sharp edge of the gate desk with a sickening thud. Blood immediately began trickling down her face from a gash above her eyebrow. "Zara!" Amara screamed, lunging toward her sister only to be restrained by the second officer. Dr. Carter pushed forward. "I'm a doctor. Let me see her. You've injured this child." The terminal erupted in chaos. Passengers gasped in horror, many now recording the incident on their phones. Some shouted at the officers while others backed away, unwilling to get involved. "She resisted," Officer Keller claimed defensively, though his face showed a flicker of alarm at the sight of blood. The black officer, whose tag read Officer Washington, looked deeply troubled. "This is unnecessary," he muttered, though he continued holding Amara back per protocol. Dr. Carter kneeled beside Zara, examining the wound. "This needs stitches," she announced, pressing a clean tissue from her purse against the cut. "She may have a concussion." "We need to call an ambulance," a bystander shouted. "No ambulance," Bradley insisted. "Security will handle this." Zara, dazed and frightened, clutched her sister's hand as Dr. Carter tended to her wound. Blood had stained her white blouse, creating a stark crimson pattern against the pristine fabric. "You assaulted a minor, Dr. Carter told Officer Keller, her voice shaking with controlled rage. "I am a witness, as are dozens of other passengers." Officer Keller's radio crackled. "Bring the suspects to the security office," came a disembodied voice. "Suspects?" Amara echoed incredulously. "Suspects of what? Having legitimate tickets while black?" Officer Washington helped Zara to her feet, whispering, "Stay calm. This will get sorted out." But the humiliation was just beginning. As the officers escorted the twins away from the gate, Bradley called after them, "Check their bags thoroughly. They could be carrying contraband." At this directive, Officer Keller stopped abruptly and demanded, "Open your bags. Now." Numb with shock and fear, the twins complied. Officer Keller dumped the contents of their carry-on bags onto the terminal floor in full view of dozens of onlookers. Personal items scattered across the polished tiles. Clothes, toiletries, electronics, and their carefully prepared science project materials. "What's this?" Officer Keller demanded, holding up a sealed test tube containing water samples for their demonstration. "It's water," Amara explained, her voice trembling. "For our science project. It's been cleared by TSA." Officer Keller opened the tube, sniffing it suspiciously before pouring it out onto the floor. "Can't be too careful," he smirked. "Our project." Zara cried, watching months of work literally go down the drain. Passengers murmured in disapproval, and the recording phones continued to capture every moment of the degrading spectacle. "Look at these diagrams," Officer Keller continued, holding up their project schematics. "What are these supposed to be? Blueprints?" "They're designs for a water filtration system," Amara explained, trying to maintain her dignity despite the humiliation. "Please be careful with those papers." Officer Keller mockingly waved the papers around. "Filtration system, huh? Looks suspicious to me." Amara had been surreptitiously recording the encounter on her phone, which she'd slipped into her pocket. Officer Keller noticed the glow through her jacket. "Hand over that phone," he demanded, reaching for her pocket. "No," Amara refused, backing away. "That's my private property, and you have no warrant." Officer Keller grabbed her wrist painfully. "Resisting an officer. That's another charge." Dr. Carter, who had followed them, intervened again. "You have no right to take her phone without a warrant. I'm calling my attorney right now, and I suggest these young women do the same." Officer Washington, increasingly uncomfortable with the situation, stepped between Keller and Amara. "Let's just get them to the security office. This is getting out of hand." The twins were marched through the terminal like criminals, bloodied and disheveled, their belongings hastily stuffed back into their bags by Officer Washington. Onlookers whispered and pointed. Some shouted encouragement, while others averted their eyes. At the security office, a small, windowless room with harsh fluorescent lighting, the twins were separated for questioning. Zara was still bleeding, the makeshift bandage Dr. Carter had applied now soaked through. "I need medical attention," Zara stated, feeling dizzy. "You'll get it when we're done here," replied a new security officer, a woman with cold eyes who identified herself as Officer Reynolds. In separate rooms, the twins were subjected to aggressive interrogation. "How did you really get those tickets?" Officer Reynolds demanded of Zara. "I told you, our father purchased them," Zara repeated, her head throbbing. "First-class tickets for teenagers. Do you expect me to believe that?" Reynolds scoffed. "Did you hack the airline system? Use stolen credit cards?" In the adjacent room, Amara faced similar accusations. "Your story doesn't add up," Officer Keller insisted. "Two young girls with expensive tickets, traveling alone, carrying suspicious materials." "We're scientists," Amara said firmly. "We're finalists in the National Youth Science Competition. Call the organization if you don't believe me." "Scientists," Keller laughed derisively. "Right." Amara's phone, which she'd managed to keep, buzzed with an incoming call. It was their father's assistant, Jordan. "Don't answer that," Keller ordered. Amara defiantly picked up the phone. "Jordan, we're being detained at the airport. They're accusing us of fraud. Zara's hurt. Please tell Dad." Keller snatched the phone away, ending the call. "That's it. You're in serious trouble now." What the officers didn't realize was that the twins' ordeal was about to become national news, and the airline's worst nightmare was just beginning. While the Jackson twins endured their separate interrogations, a remarkable movement was taking shape in the terminal. Dr. Jasmine Carter, still shaken by what she had witnessed, had not boarded her flight. Instead, she stood near gate C-22, speaking urgently into her phone. "Listen to me, Anthony," she said to her husband, a prominent civil rights attorney in Boston. "I've just witnessed a horrific incident of racial profiling and police brutality against two teenage girls. I need your help." As Dr. Carter detailed the events, a small crowd gathered around her. Among them was Lisa Henderson, the mother of the white twin girls who had boarded without incident. "I can't believe what I just saw," Lisa said, her face pale with shock. "Those girls were treated completely differently than my daughters. It's unconscionable." Dr. Carter nodded grimly. "This happens every day, but rarely with so many witnesses." Lisa's daughter Madison had returned to the gate area, visibly upset. "Mom, I recorded everything," she said, holding up her phone. "Can I post it? People need to see this." Lisa hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Yes. This needs to be seen." Within minutes, Madison's video was uploaded to her social media accounts with the caption, "Watch, Black twin girls with valid first-class tickets physically assaulted by airline staff and security at Atlanta airport. Blood everywhere. #airline brutality against black girls." The video spread like wildfire. As passengers on the flight settled into their seats, many were already watching the incident unfold on their phones, murmuring in disbelief and anger. Back in the terminal, Dr. Carter had mobilized a group of concerned passengers who had witnessed the incident. They approached the gate desk where Pamela Wilson was continuing to process boarders as if nothing had happened. "We demand to speak to the head of airport operations," Dr. Carter stated firmly, now flanked by 7 other passengers. "The boarding process is nearly complete," Pamela replied dismissively. "If you're not boarding, please step aside." "Did you know those girls are the daughters of Darius Jackson?" asked an elderly black man in the group, taking a calculated guess based on the twins' last name. Pamela's expression flickered with uncertainty. "Who?" "You'll find out soon enough," he replied ominously. Meanwhile, in the security office, Amara had managed to send a quick text to their father's assistant before her phone was confiscated. Jordan immediately called Darius, interrupting an important board meeting. "Sir, there's an emergency with the girls at the airport," Jordan explained. "They're being detained by security. Zara's been injured." Darius felt his blood run cold. "What? Put them on the phone." "I can't. Security has taken their phones." "But sir, it's all over social media already." As the airline staff began to realize the twins had been detained for over an hour, missing their flight, Bradley Thompson approached the security office. His earlier righteousness had given way to nervous calculation as reports of the viral video reached him. "Perhaps we can resolve this situation," he suggested to the security team. "The airline is prepared to offer vouchers for another flight and an upgrade to premium class." "Without admitting any wrongdoing, I assume?" Amara asked coldly. "This was simply a misunderstanding," Bradley insisted, avoiding her gaze. "A misunderstanding that left my sister bleeding and our property destroyed?" Amara countered. "No. We want accountability, not vouchers." Outside the security office, the resistance was growing. Dr. Carter had organized a passenger boycott. Dozens of travelers who had witnessed the incident or seen the viral video were now refusing to board any flights operated by the airline until the situation was resolved. "This is a pivotal moment for all of us," Dr. Carter addressed the growing crowd. "Will we stand by while two brilliant young black women are humiliated and assaulted for simply existing in a space someone decided they didn't belong? Or will we take a stand?" The crowd responded with applause and shouts of support. Madison Henderson's video had now been viewed over 200,000 times and was being picked up by news outlets. The hashtag airline brutality against black girls was trending nationally, with celebrities and politicians beginning to weigh in. Have you ever witnessed discrimination in a public place? What did you do? Comment number 1 if you would have stood up for the Jackson twins, or number 2 if you would have been too afraid to get involved. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories of injustice and resistance. How far do you think this situation will escalate? Will the airline admit their wrongdoing, or will they try to cover it up? And what about Darius Jackson? What power does this mysterious father hold that could potentially ground an entire airline? Stay tuned to find out. Darius Jackson sat in the back of his chauffeur-driven Bentley, staring at his phone in horror. The video of his daughters, his brilliant, kind, hard-working daughters, being assaulted and humiliated had now been viewed over 1 million times. Zara's blood-stained face filled his screen, her eyes wide with shock and fear. His hands trembled with a combination of rage and heartbreak. After losing their mother to cancer 3 years ago, he had sworn to protect his girls from any harm. Yet here they were, suffering in the most public way possible. "Drive faster," he instructed his chauffeur, who immediately accelerated toward the airport. Darius had been in the middle of negotiating a $500 million deal when Jordan had interrupted with news of the crisis. He'd left without explanation, much to the confusion of the executives and investors gathered in the NextGen Technologies conference room. Now, as he watched the video for the third time, painful memories surfaced. Despite his wealth and success, building NextGen into a billion-dollar tech company from nothing, becoming one of the most influential black executives in America, Darius had faced similar treatment throughout his life. There was the time he'd been followed by security throughout a high-end electronics store while researching competitors' products. The countless occasions when he'd been mistaken for staff rather than the owner of his company. The real estate agent who tried to steer him away from affluent neighborhoods, assuming he couldn't afford them. He'd worked so hard to shield his daughters from these experiences, using his wealth and influence as armor. But today proved what his late wife had always said: money doesn't protect you from racism. It just changes how it manifests. Darius made 3 phone calls on his way to the airport. The first was to his company's legal team, instructing them to prepare for potential litigation. The second was to his PR director, telling her to monitor the situation but make no statements yet. The third was to the airline's corporate headquarters. "This is Darius Jackson. I need to speak with CEO Gregory Palmer immediately," he told the receptionist. "I'm sorry, sir, Mr. Palmer is unavailable. May I ask what this is regarding?" "It's regarding the 2 teenage girls currently being detained by your airline security team in Atlanta." "My daughters." There was a pause. "One moment, please." After several transfers, Darius found himself speaking to a vice president of customer relations who clearly didn't recognize his name. "Mr. Jackson, I assure you we're looking into this incident. We take all allegations of discrimination very seriously." "Allegations?" Darius repeated coldly. "There's video evidence of my daughter bleeding after being assaulted by your security personnel. This isn't an allegation. It's a documented fact." "Sir, I understand you're upset." "No, you don't understand. But you will." Darius ended the call as his car pulled up to the airport terminal. Inside the airport, the situation was escalating. Dr. Carter and her growing coalition of concerned passengers had demanded to see the head of airport operations. The media had arrived, with local news crews setting up outside the terminal. The airline's social media accounts were being flooded with outraged comments. In the security office, new information had emerged. A junior airline employee, troubled by what she was witnessing, had quietly informed Officer Washington that the gate agent, Pamela Wilson, had flagged the twins' tickets before they even approached the counter. "She saw their names and photos in the system and marked them for additional verification," the employee whispered. "It wasn't random. She targeted them specifically." Officer Washington, increasingly uncomfortable with his role in the situation, approached his supervisor. "Sir, I think we may have made a serious error here. These girls appear to be legitimate passengers who were profiled by the gate agent." His supervisor, Captain Ramirez, reviewed the new information with growing concern. "Get those girls some medical attention immediately. And find out who their father is." Meanwhile, Darius had arrived at the airport, moving purposefully through the terminal toward the security office. People turned to stare at the imposing figure in the immaculate suit, his face a mask of controlled fury. At the security office entrance, he was stopped by Officer Keller. "Sir, this is a restricted area. My name is Darius Jackson. My daughters, Zara and Amara Jackson, are being illegally detained in there. You will let me pass." Officer Keller hesitated, intimidated by Darius's commanding presence but unwilling to back down. "I need to see some identification." Darius produced his driver's license and business card. "Now open the door before I add another charge to the lawsuit that's already being prepared." Inside, Darius found Zara sitting on a plastic chair, a bloodied paper towel pressed to her forehead. Amara stood beside her, holding her sister's hand. Both girls looked up as he entered, relief washing over their faces. "Dad," they cried in unison. Darius embraced them both, careful of Zara's injury. "Are you all right?" "I need stitches," Zara said quietly. Darius turned to the security personnel, his voice dangerously calm. "My daughter requires immediate medical attention. She has been assaulted on your premises. I demand she be taken to a hospital now." "Sir, we're still investigating." Officer Reynolds began. "You're investigating nothing," Darius cut her off. "My daughters had valid tickets purchased through my company's corporate account with your airline. They were profiled, harassed, and assaulted. One of them is injured and bleeding. There is no investigation needed." Captain Ramirez entered, having just received information about who exactly Darius Jackson was. "Mr. Jackson, I apologize for this situation. We'll arrange medical transport immediately. And you'll release my daughters into my custody right now," Darius added. It wasn't a request. As this confrontation unfolded, the airline's regional director, Thomas Wells, arrived at the security office, looking flustered. He had just been informed that the detained teenagers were the daughters of someone potentially important, though he still didn't fully grasp who Darius was. "Mr. Jackson, I'm Thomas Wells, Regional Director for the airline. On behalf of everyone, I want to extend our sincerest apologies for this unfortunate misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Darius repeated, his voice quiet but sharp as a blade. "My 16-year-old daughter is bleeding because your staff assumed 2 black girls couldn't possibly belong in first class." Wells paled slightly. "We're prepared to offer compensation, of course. Complimentary tickets, upgrades." "I don't want your tickets," Darius interrupted. "What I want is accountability. Every person involved in this incident needs to face consequences for their actions." Wells motioned toward a private office. "Perhaps we could discuss this somewhere more comfortable. We have a VIP lounge where your daughter can receive medical attention." "No," Darius stated firmly. "We're not going anywhere private, so you can sweep this under the rug. This happened publicly, and it will be addressed publicly." Outside the security office, Dr. Carter and a coalition of witnesses were demanding updates on the twins' condition. The news crews had managed to enter the terminal, cameras rolling as they approached the growing crowd. Inside, Captain Ramirez was finally beginning to understand the gravity of the situation as he scrolled through news alerts on his phone. The story was everywhere, with commentators already speculating about lawsuits and boycotts. "Mr. Jackson," Ramirez said carefully, "your daughters are free to go. We'll arrange for medical transport to the hospital of your choice." "And their belongings?" Darius asked. An officer sheepishly produced the twins' bags, including Amara's phone, which had been confiscated. As they prepared to leave, Thomas Wells made one more attempt. "Mr. Jackson, I hope we can resolve this matter amicably. The airline values all our customers equally." Darius looked at him with cold certainty. "Mr. Wells, you have no idea who I am, do you?" Wells hesitated. "You're a concerned father." "I'm much more than that," Darius replied. "And by this time tomorrow, your CEO will be calling me, begging for a conversation." With that cryptic statement, Darius led his daughters out of the security office, into the waiting crowd of supporters and news cameras. The hidden power behind the Jackson name was about to be revealed, and the airline had no idea what was coming. A small crowd had gathered outside the security office, Dr. Carter, the Henderson family, and dozens of other witnesses and supporters who had refused to leave until they knew the twins were safe. When Darius emerged with his daughters, a cheer went up from the assembled group. "They're all right," someone called out, though the blood on Zara's blouse and the makeshift bandage on her forehead told a different story. Dr. Carter immediately approached them. "I'm Dr. Jasmine Carter. I witnessed everything and tried to help your daughter. She needs stitches." "Thank you, Doctor," Darius replied gratefully. "For everything you've done." News cameras captured the moment as Darius guided his daughters through the terminal. Reporters shouted questions, but he remained focused on getting Zara medical attention. A paramedic team, finally called by airport authorities, was waiting to escort them to an ambulance. "Sir," one of the paramedics said, "we can take her to Atlanta General. It's closest." "No," Darius replied. "Take us to Emory University Hospital. Dr. Michael Bennett is expecting us." He had already called ahead to his friend, one of Atlanta's top neurosurgeons. As the paramedics prepared to transport Zara, Thomas Wells made one last desperate attempt to contain the situation. "Mr. Jackson," he said, hurrying alongside them, "we can arrange private transportation for you and your daughters. And of course, the airline will cover all medical expenses." Darius stopped and turned to face the airline representative. His voice was low but carried clearly to those nearby, including several recording smartphones. "Mr. Wells, let me be perfectly clear. My company, NextGen Technologies, holds a $500 million annual contract with your airline for corporate travel. We're your largest corporate client. Wells's face drained of color as realization dawned. "You're that Darius Jackson?" "Yes," Darius confirmed. "And as of this moment, that contract is under review." The statement sent immediate shockwaves through the gathered crowd. Several people gasped audibly. A reporter who recognized the significance began speaking rapidly into her microphone. Wells stammered, "Mr. Jackson, surely we can discuss this." "There's nothing to discuss," Darius cut him off. "My daughters were profiled, humiliated, and assaulted by your staff. One is injured and bleeding. Their property was destroyed. All because they're black teenagers in first class. I assure you, our airline does not discriminate." "Save it," Darius interrupted. "The evidence is already viral. Millions of people have seen what happened here today." By now, Gregory Palmer, the airline's CEO, had been frantically briefed on the situation. He called Wells's phone, which rang loudly in the tense silence. "That's probably your CEO," Darius noted. "You should answer it. Tell him I'll be speaking with him personally about this incident, after my daughter receives medical care." As the paramedics wheeled Zara toward the exit, with Amara and Darius following closely, Dr. Carter fell into step beside them. "Mr. Jackson, I'm heading to Emory myself. I'd like to continue supporting your family through this, if that's all right." Darius nodded gratefully. "We would appreciate that, Doctor." The Hendersons approached as well. "Mr. Jackson," Lisa Henderson said, "my daughters and I witnessed everything. We want you to know we're happy to provide statements about the different treatment our families received." "Thank you," Darius replied. "Your support means a great deal." As they reached the exit, a police officer approached, not airport security, but Atlanta PD. "Mr. Jackson. I'm Officer Williams. We've received reports of an assault on a minor. We'd like to take statements from your daughters when they're able." "My lawyers will be in touch to arrange that," Darius replied. "Right now, my priority is getting my daughter medical attention." In the ambulance, Zara finally allowed herself to cry, the shock of the day's events catching up with her. Amara held her sister's hand tightly as the paramedics monitored her vital signs. "Dad," Amara said quietly, "we missed the competition." "Don't worry about that now," Darius assured her. "Your project is brilliant. There will be other opportunities." "But we worked so hard," Zara whispered, tears mixing with the dried blood on her face. "I know, sweetheart," Darius said, his heart breaking for his daughter's dashed dreams. "And what happened today is inexcusable. But I promise you both, something good will come from this. Your mother always said that our greatest challenges can lead to our most important contributions." At Emory University Hospital, Dr. Bennett was waiting for them. After examining Zara thoroughly, he determined that she needed 7 stitches and had suffered a mild concussion. As he treated her wound, Darius stepped out to make several calls. The first was to his executive team, instructing them to immediately suspend all corporate travel with the airline. The second was to his legal department, directing them to prepare documentation to terminate their contract. The third was to his PR director, authorizing her to release a statement about the incident. By the time he returned to Zara's treatment room, his phone was buzzing constantly with notifications. The airline stock had dropped 5% in after-hours trading as news of the incident, and NextGen's potential contract termination, spread. Gregory Palmer, the airline's CEO, had called 7 times. Darius let the calls go to voicemail. Let him sweat, he thought. Back at the airport, the situation was spiraling further out of control for the airline. Bradley Thompson and Pamela Wilson had been placed on immediate administrative leave. Officer Keller was being investigated by his department. The video of the incident had been viewed over 5 million times and was being featured on national news broadcasts. Dr. Carter had given a powerful interview outside the hospital, describing in clinical detail the unnecessary force used against Zara and the discriminatory treatment both girls had received. As a physician and as a black woman, she told reporters, I was appalled by what I witnessed today. Those young women were denied dignity, safety, and equal treatment, all because they didn't fit someone's idea of who belongs in first class. The Henderson twins had also spoken out, describing the stark difference in how they were treated compared to the Jacksons despite their identical situations. We had the exact same tickets, Madison Henderson explained to a reporter. The only difference was our skin color. Finally, after Zara had been treated and prescribed rest, Darius checked his family into the presidential suite at the Four Seasons Hotel. As the girls settled in, he took the call he'd been waiting for. Darius, Gregory Palmer began, his voice strained, I can't express how deeply sorry I am about what happened to your daughters today. Save the corporate apology, Darius replied coldly. This isn't my first rodeo with discrimination, Gregory. The difference is, this time it happened to my children, and this time I have the power to do something about it. We value our relationship with NextGen enormously, Palmer insisted. Whatever it takes to make this right, it's not just about my family, Darius interrupted. It's about every black traveler who's been profiled, questioned, or made to feel they don't belong. My daughters happen to be the daughters of a man who can hit you where it hurts, your bottom line. Most victims don't have that luxury. What can we do? Palmer asked, desperation evident in his voice. For starters, you can fire everyone involved in this incident. Then implement comprehensive anti-bias training for all staff. Create a transparent reporting system for discrimination complaints. And establish a substantial scholarship fund for minority students interested in aviation and transportation careers. There was a pause before Palmer responded. That's a significant ask. It's not an ask, Darius clarified. It's a requirement if you want to keep our business. And frankly, it's the bare minimum of what should be done. I'll need to consult with our board, you do that, Darius said. In the meantime, I've instructed my company to suspend all travel with your airline, effective immediately. That's 20,000 employee flights annually that you've just lost. And I've been receiving calls all afternoon from other CEOs who are considering doing the same. The power had shifted. For once, discrimination had targeted someone with the means and influence to demand real change. As Darius ended the call, he looked at his daughters, brilliant, resilient young women who reminded him so much of their mother. Get some rest, he told them gently. Tomorrow, we fight back. By 7 o'clock the next morning, Gregory Palmer's world was imploding. The airline CEO sat in his corner office in Dallas, surrounded by his crisis management team, legal counsel, and board members who had been summoned for an emergency meeting. The stock is down 12% since market open, reported the CFO, her voice tense. We've lost nearly $2 billion in market capitalization overnight. Social media is a nightmare, added the head of PR. The hashtag has been used over 3 million times. Celebrities and politicians are calling for boycotts. Palmer rubbed his temples, the magnitude of the crisis finally sinking in. It had taken him until 3 a.m. to fully comprehend who Darius Jackson really was. NextGen Technologies wasn't just any corporate client, it was a tech giant whose travel contract was worth $500 million annually. More importantly, Darius Jackson was one of the most respected and connected black executives in America, with relationships throughout the business world. We've received cancellation notices from 14 corporate clients so far, the sales director announced grimly. They're citing solidarity with NextGen and concerns about our company culture. The airline's general counsel cleared his throat. We need to discuss the legal exposure. The assault on a minor, recorded from multiple angles, presents significant liability. The evidence of discriminatory treatment is overwhelming. Jesus, Palmer muttered. How did this happen? It's been happening for years, said Diane Williams, the only black woman on the executive team. This time it was caught on video and happened to the wrong family. Palmer shot her a look, but didn't argue. He couldn't. The evidence was damning. His assistant entered the room. "Sir, Oprah Winfrey's production company is requesting an interview. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News have all asked for statements. And, the Department of Transportation has announced a formal investigation into our passenger screening practices." Palmer turned to his PR director. "Where are we on the statement? Draft 12 is ready, but frankly, it's not going to be enough. Standard corporate apologies are being shredded online. People want action, not words." The meeting was interrupted by another assistant. "Mr. Palmer, I have Darius Jackson holding for you again." The room fell silent. Palmer took a deep breath and picked up the phone, putting it on speaker. "Darius, good morning." "Gregory," Darius replied, his voice calm and measured. "I assume you've had time to consider my requirements." Palmer glanced at his team. "We're prepared to take disciplinary action against the employees involved and review our training protocols." "That's not what I asked for," Darius interrupted. "Disciplinary action is ambiguous. Review is meaningless. I was very specific about what needs to happen." Palmer hesitated. "The board has concerns about the scope of your demands." "Let me be equally clear about the scope of your problem," Darius countered. "I've spent the morning speaking with other CEOs. 5 major corporations have already suspended their travel contracts with your airline. 20 more are considering it. That represents approximately 30% of your corporate business." The executives exchanged alarmed glances. "Additionally," Darius continued, "my daughters have decided they want public accountability, not a private settlement. They're giving their first interview this afternoon, to Oprah." Palmer closed his eyes briefly. "Darius, surely we can discuss this reasonably, CEO to CEO." "I am being reasonable," Darius replied. "My daughters were assaulted and humiliated because of the color of their skin. Your employees profiled them, publicly degraded them, and physically injured one of them. All of this is documented on video that has now been viewed by millions. The fact that I'm offering you a path forward rather than simply destroying your company is the definition of reasonable." After a tense silence, Palmer conceded. "What exactly do you want?" "Everything I outlined yesterday. Termination of all employees involved. Comprehensive anti-bias training. Transparent reporting system for discrimination complaints. A $50 million scholarship fund for minority students in aviation. And one more thing, my daughters will help design your new customer service protocols." Palmer looked at his legal counsel, who nodded reluctantly. "We accept your terms," Palmer said finally. "Good," Darius replied. "My lawyers will be in touch with the details." "And Gregory?" "This is just the beginning. What happened to my girls happens to black travelers every day. The only difference is that most don't have a father who can get the CEO on the phone." After the call ended, Palmer turned to his team. "Make it happen. All of it." Across town, in the presidential suite of the Four Seasons, Darius ended the call and turned to his daughters, who had been listening intently. "That's how you use power to create change," he told them. Zara, her forehead now properly bandaged, looked thoughtful. "Dad, do you remember when Mom was still alive, and we got followed around that department store in Chicago?" Darius nodded, the memory still painful. Their mother, Dr. Layla Jackson, had been a renowned neuroscientist before cancer took her too soon. "She didn't make a scene," Zara continued. "She just quietly bought the most expensive item in the store, then told the manager she wouldn't be back because of how they treated us." "Your mother believed in quiet dignity," Darius said softly. "But she also believed in using whatever influence you have to create change." Amara, who had been unusually quiet since the incident, finally spoke up. "I keep thinking about all the people who go through what we did, but don't have a powerful dad or viral videos to help them." Darius sat beside his daughters on the sofa. "That's why this can't just be about what happened to you. It has to be about changing the system." A knock at the door interrupted their conversation. It was Jordan, Darius's assistant, arriving with Dr. Carter and their legal team. The press conference is set for noon, Jordan reported. Oprah's team will be here at 2 for the interview. And the head of the National Youth Science Competition called. They've arranged for you to present your project virtually tomorrow. Dr. Carter approached the twins. How are you feeling, Zara? Any dizziness or nausea? I'm okay, Zara assured her. Just a headache. That's normal with a concussion, Dr. Carter said, checking her pupils. But you're healing well. While Dr. Carter examined Zara, Darius took a call from another CEO, this time, from a competing airline. Darius, it's Michael Reynolds at SkyWest. I just wanted to express my personal outrage at what happened to your daughters. It's unacceptable. Thank you, Michael. I also wanted you to know that we're implementing our own review of customer service protocols, to ensure nothing like this happens on our flights. And we'd be honored to have your business, of course. Darius couldn't help but smile slightly at the transparent business opportunity disguised as solidarity. I appreciate that, Michael. Let's talk next week. By noon, the hotel's ballroom had been transformed for a press conference. Reporters and cameras filled the space as Darius took the podium, flanked by his daughters, Dr. Carter, and their legal team. Yesterday, my daughters were assaulted and humiliated by airline staff and security personnel, Darius began. Their only crime was flying while black. This morning, I spoke with the airline CEO, who has agreed to implement sweeping changes to address the systemic discrimination within their organization. He outlined the concessions, including the scholarship fund and the termination of the employees involved. But this isn't just about one incident or one airline, he continued. This is about the everyday indignities faced by Black Americans in public spaces across this country. My family has the resources and platform to fight back. Many don't. When it was the twins' turn to speak, they approached the microphones with the poise that had always made Darius proud. We're scientists, Amara stated clearly. We create solutions to problems. The project we designed purifies contaminated water for communities that have been neglected and forgotten. Now, we're going to help design solutions for another toxic environment, one where Black people are treated as suspicious just for existing in certain spaces. Zara, her bandage visible to all the cameras, spoke next. We want to thank everyone who stood up for us yesterday, especially Dr. Carter. Your courage reminds us that change happens when good people refuse to be silent. As the press conference concluded and journalists shouted follow-up questions, Darius guided his daughters from the podium. In just 24 hours, they had transformed from victims to advocates, from passengers denied boarding to powerful voices for change. The airline stock continued to plummet. Bradley Thompson and Pamela Wilson had been terminated, along with Officer Keller. The airport authority had issued a formal apology and announced an independent review of security protocols. In the presidential suite, preparing for the Oprah interview, Amara turned to her father. Do you think anything will really change? Darius considered the question carefully. Systems don't change overnight. But yes, I believe this incident will create meaningful change, at least within this airline. And sometimes, that's how progress happens, one institution at a time. Zara touched her bandaged forehead gently. Then I guess it was worth it. Darius pulled both his daughters into an embrace. Nothing is worth seeing you hurt. But I am incredibly proud of how you're using this moment to help others. As they separated, his phone buzzed with yet another call, this time from the White House. The corporate collision had escalated beyond anything the airline could have imagined, and the twins' story was now driving a national conversation about race, privilege, and power in America. The Oprah interview changed everything. Sitting in plush chairs across from the media icon, Zara and Amara Jackson spoke with eloquence and emotion about their experience. The bandage on Zara's forehead had been replaced with butterfly stitches, the injury visible for all to see. What was going through your mind when the officer pushed you? Oprah asked gently. Zara's voice remained steady, though her eyes glistened. Honestly, I thought about my mom. She always told us to carry ourselves with dignity, no matter how others treated us. In that moment, bleeding and humiliated, I tried to remember her words. The camera cut to Darius, who blinked rapidly, fighting back tears. And Amara, Oprah continued, you kept recording even as they tried to take your phone. Why was that so important to you? Because I knew no one would believe us otherwise, Amara replied. Black people report discrimination every day and are told they're overreacting or imagining things. I needed evidence. The interview aired that evening in a primetime special. By morning, the twins had become the faces of a movement. #FlyingWhileBlack trended alongside their original hashtag, with thousands of black travelers sharing their own stories of discrimination in airports and on planes. One woman described being asked to move from first class because a white passenger didn't feel comfortable sitting next to her. A prominent black surgeon recounted being mistaken for a porter while in his medical scrubs. A family detailed how they were removed from a flight because their toddler was too active, while white children nearby behaved similarly without consequence. The floodgates had opened. What made the Jacksons' case different wasn't just the viral video or their father's influence, it was that their experience had created a space for others to be heard and believed. 3 days after the incident, the Department of Transportation announced a formal investigation into the airline's practices. Simultaneously, the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division opened an inquiry into patterns of discrimination in air travel more broadly. In a dramatic development, an anonymous employee leaked internal documents from the airline's training materials. One slide instructed gate agents to be additionally vigilant with passengers who don't fit the typical profile for premium cabins. While the language was coded, the implication was clear. Another leaked email from a regional manager praised an agent for maintaining our standards of clientele in first class, after the agent had questioned the legitimacy of a black executive's ticket. Dr. Carter, who had become an unexpected ally and advocate for the family, organized a coalition of medical professionals who traveled frequently. They compiled data showing they were subjected to random security screenings at rates far exceeding their white colleagues. The Henderson family, who had witnessed the original incident, became important voices as well. During a CNN interview, Madison Henderson, the 16-year-old who had first shared video of the incident, spoke candidly. I've always known I had privilege because my parents taught me about it, she explained, but seeing it in action like that, watching Zara and Amara being treated so differently than my sister and me when we were in the exact same situation, it was impossible to ignore. The airline's attempts at damage control proved futile. Their initial statement, calling the incident an unfortunate misunderstanding, was met with public outrage. A subsequent apology acknowledging serious errors in judgment did little to stem the tide of backlash. 7 days after the incident, a press conference was held at the law offices of Carter and Williams, a prominent civil rights firm in Atlanta. Darius Jackson stood alongside attorney Anthony Carter, Dr. Jasmine Carter's husband, to announce a class-action lawsuit against the airline. This lawsuit represents over 300 individuals who have experienced discriminatory treatment by this airline over the past 5 years, Anthony Carter explained to the assembled media. The Jacksons' case is, tragically, not an isolated incident but part of a pattern of systemic discrimination. Darius stepped to the microphone. When I first spoke about what happened to my daughters, I said this wasn't just about one incident or one airline. The response we've received confirms that reality. This lawsuit seeks not only damages for the victims but fundamental changes in how airlines treat passengers of color. The lawsuit detailed allegations ranging from excessive security screenings to denied boarding, unwarranted removal from flights, and discriminatory enforcement of policies. The financial damages sought were substantial, over $200 million, but equally significant were the structural remedies demanded: independent oversight, mandatory bias training, revised policies, and diverse hiring practices. Behind the scenes, Darius was using his considerable influence in other ways. He had convened a meeting of black executives from Fortune 500 companies, all of whom had experienced similar treatment despite their success and status. "What happened to my daughters could have happened to any of our children," he told the group. "We have an opportunity, and I believe a responsibility, to use our collective economic power to demand change." By the end of the meeting, a new initiative had been formed, the Corporate Accountability Project, which would use the combined leverage of black executives to push for equity and inclusion across industries. Meanwhile, Zara and Amara had refocused on their scientific work. Their presentation to the National Youth Science Competition, delivered virtually from their hotel suite, earned them first place and a standing ovation from the judges. "Our project addresses environmental racism," Zara explained during their presentation, the butterfly stitches still visible on her forehead. "Communities of color are disproportionately affected by contaminated water sources. Our low-cost filtration system can be implemented without requiring massive infrastructure investments." Their victory earned them not only the prestigious award but full scholarships to MIT, their dream school. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The discrimination that had prevented them from attending the competition in person had ultimately amplified their message and expanded their platform. 10 days after the incident, the airline CEO Gregory Palmer held a somber press conference. The company's stock had fallen 24%. Corporate contracts worth billions were in jeopardy. Public trust was at an all-time low. "Today, I am announcing my resignation as CEO," Palmer stated, his voice strained. "The events of the past week have made it clear that our company has failed in its responsibility to treat all passengers with dignity and respect. New leadership is required to implement the necessary changes." He went on to announce the appointment of Diana Williams, the black executive who had warned him about systemic issues, as interim CEO. Williams's first act would be to establish an independent civil rights audit of all company policies and practices. That evening, Darius received a call from the Secretary of Transportation. "Mr. Jackson, the President would like to meet with you and your daughters next week to discuss broader reforms in the transportation sector. Would you be available to come to Washington?" What had begun as a horrific incident of discrimination had exposed the rot within not just one airline but an entire industry. And the twins who had been deemed suspicious for flying first class were now being invited to the White House to help shape national policy. As Darius shared the news with his daughters, Amara looked thoughtful. "Dad, do you remember what Mom used to say about systems?" Darius nodded. His late wife had been passionate about systemic change. She said that systems are designed to produce exactly the results they get. "And if you want different results," Zara continued, "you have to change the system." The twins exchanged a look of determination. This was only the beginning. 3 months after the incident that had thrust them into the national spotlight, Zara and Amara Jackson stood on the campus of MIT, gazing up at the imposing dome of the main building. Fall had turned the surrounding trees into a riot of red and gold, and a crisp breeze carried the promise of new beginnings. "Can you believe we're really here?" Amara asked, adjusting her backpack. Zara touched the faint scar on her forehead, the only remaining physical evidence of that day at the airport. "Sometimes I think about how differently things could have turned out. The past 3 months have been a whirlwind of activity and change." Their meeting at the White House had led to the formation of a presidential task force on equity in transportation, with Dr. Jasmine Carter appointed as co-chair. The twins had been invited to serve as youth advisors, bringing their unique perspective to the policy discussions. The class action lawsuit against the airline had been settled for $250 million, with the funds divided between the victims and a newly established foundation for transportation equity. The settlement also mandated structural changes within the company, diverse hiring targets, comprehensive anti-bias training, transparent reporting of passenger complaints, and an independent oversight board with real enforcement power. Diana Williams, once the lone black voice in the airline's executive suite, had been confirmed as permanent CEO, the first black woman to lead a major American airline. Her appointment had sent ripples through the industry, prompting other transportation companies to examine their own leadership diversity. But perhaps the most significant change had come from the twins themselves. They had modified their award-winning water filtration project to include a new dimension. An algorithm that detected patterns of inequity in service delivery. We realized that the same data analysis we were using to identify environmental injustice could be applied to other systems, Zara explained during their TED Talk, which had now been viewed over 5 million times. Transportation, healthcare, education, any system can be analyzed for bias if you know what patterns to look for. Their algorithm, dubbed the Equity Lens, had been adopted by the Department of Transportation as part of its civil rights monitoring program. Airlines now had to submit passenger data for analysis, with flags raised when disparities emerged in how different demographic groups were treated. The Jackson twins had transformed from victims of discrimination to architects of accountability. And today, they were beginning their freshman year at MIT, a full semester early thanks to their advanced placement credits. "Dad texted," Amara said, checking her phone. "He's arrived at the hotel and wants to know if we need anything before orientation." Darius had relocated NextGen's East Coast operations to Boston to be near his daughters. The company had expanded its focus to include equity-centered technology solutions, inspired by the twins' innovations. The corporate accountability project he had founded now included executives from over 100 major companies, all committed to using their economic leverage to advance social justice. As the twins walked toward their dormitory, they were approached by a group of young black girls, ranging in age from about 8 to 13, all wearing matching t-shirts with "Future Scientists" printed across the front. "Excuse me," said the oldest girl shyly. "Are you Zara and Amara Jackson?" "We're from the Jackson STEM Academy for Girls. We'd love to get a picture with you." The Jackson STEM Academy was another outcome of the airline settlement, a program specifically designed to support young black girls interested in science and technology. Already operational in 5 cities, the academy provided mentorship, resources, and hands-on learning opportunities in communities often overlooked by educational enrichment programs. "Of course," Zara replied warmly, kneeling down to the girls' level. "Are you all scientists too?" "Yes," they chorused enthusiastically. "I'm designing a robot that can clean up ocean plastic," one girl explained. "I'm working on a solar-powered cooling system for homes that don't have air conditioning," added another. As they posed for photos, Amara felt a lump in her throat. These bright young girls with dreams as big as their own had once been, this was the real victory. Later that evening, the twins met their father for dinner at a restaurant near campus. Darius looked at his daughters with undisguised pride. "Your mother would be so proud of you both," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not just for your scientific achievements, but for how you've handled everything these past months." Zara smiled sadly. "I wish she could see all this." "She can," Darius replied. "In every girl who joins the STEM Academy, in every policy change at the airline, in every system that becomes more equitable because of your work, she's there." Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion at the front of the restaurant. Diana Williams, the airline CEO, had arrived with her team for a business dinner. Seeing the Jacksons, she approached their table. "I hoped I might run into you," she said. "I wanted you to be the first to know." The Zara and Amara protocol goes into effect next week. The protocol, named in honor of the twins, established new industry-wide standards for how airlines identified and addressed potential discrimination. It included anonymous testing using passengers of different races to ensure equal treatment, data collection and analysis using the Equity Lens algorithm, and clear consequences for violations. "All major airlines have signed on," Diana continued. "Even our competitors. Some things transcend business rivalry." As Diana returned to her table, Darius looked at his daughters. From being blocked from boarding to changing an entire industry. That's the power of standing your ground. The next morning, as the twins prepared for their first day of classes, they received a video call from Dr. Carter. "Good morning, future world changers, she greeted them. Ready for your first day? As ready as we'll ever be, Amara replied. I wanted to share some news, Dr. Carter continued. The Transportation Equity Commission has approved funding for a nationwide study using your algorithm to analyze patterns across all modes of public transportation. We're calling it the Jackson Project. After ending the call, the twins walked across the campus toward their first class, Advanced Fluid Dynamics. Other students glanced their way, some with recognition in their eyes. The Jackson twins' story had made them minor celebrities, but they were determined to be known for their minds rather than their moment of viral fame. As they took their seats in the lecture hall, a young black professor smiled at them from the podium. Welcome to MIT, she said. I'm Professor Daniels, and I'll be your instructor this semester. I believe strongly that science should serve humanity, that our greatest breakthroughs should address our most pressing inequities. I'm looking forward to seeing what contributions you all will make. Zara and Amara exchanged glances. 3 months ago, they had been blocked from boarding a plane because someone decided they didn't belong in first class. Today, they were exactly where they were meant to be, using their brilliance to ensure others would face fewer barriers on their own journeys. Outside the lecture hall window, they could see a plane climbing into the blue sky, its contrail a white line connecting Earth to heaven. Somewhere in that vast network of flights, perhaps another young black person was traveling toward their dreams, now protected by protocols bearing the Jackson name. It wasn't perfect. Systems resistant to change would find new ways to discriminate. Bias wouldn't disappear overnight. But what had begun as a moment of trauma had transformed into a movement for justice, and the twins were just getting started. As Professor Daniels began her lecture, Amara opened her notebook and wrote at the top of the page, "Change the system, change the outcome." Beside her, Zara did the same. Their mother would indeed be proud. Have you ever witnessed discrimination and stood up against it? Do you believe individual stories like the Jacksons can create systemic change? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more powerful narratives about justice and transformation. Don't forget to share this video with someone who needs to hear this message of hope and empowerment. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and remember, sometimes the greatest changes begin with a single act of courage. This powerful story teaches us that fighting discrimination requires both courage and strategic action. The Jackson twins demonstrated that maintaining dignity in the face of injustice is only the first step. Creating lasting change demands leveraging whatever power and platforms are available. While not everyone has a CEO father, everyone has a voice that can be amplified through documentation, coalition building, and persistence. The story also highlights how systems of discrimination aren't dismantled through individual punishments alone, but through structural reforms that address root causes. By using their scientific minds to develop tools for accountability, the twins transformed personal trauma into systemic solutions. Perhaps most importantly, we learn that representation matters in every space, from first-class cabins to corporate boardrooms to scientific competitions. When people of color are excluded from these spaces, innovation suffers and injustice persists. The twins' ultimate victory wasn't just personal vindication but creating pathways for future generations of black girls in STEM. Have you ever witnessed or experienced discrimination and found the courage to speak up? How did it make you feel? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more powerful narratives about overcoming injustice. Don't forget to share this video with someone who needs to hear this message of hope and empowerment. Together, we can create a world where no one is denied their rightful place because of the color of their skin. Thank you for joining us on this journey toward justice and equality.